Yay!
Hello, hello.
I know, right? Your smile says it all. Another Wednesday, Woman Wise
Another
Wednesday
Wednesday.
podcast.
Welcome back to the Women Wise podcast. I'm Sara Haboubi and my awesome co-host, Janine Lingenfelder. Janine, how are you doing?
Today, I'm doing so great. It's closer to Christmas and the holiday fever is almost kicking in as well. And I'm really doing good.
That's fantastic. So we've got a really interesting guest on today, haven't we? I think this is a subject that affects every woman, definitely, and some men too, but I think women in particular.
I agree. We're going to dive into something so relevant, as you say, to most of us, which is our relationship with food, our bodies, and of course, how we can really use techniques and powerful techniques that will be shared by our guest today. So, Sara, who is our guest?
Today, our guest is Rouba Chalabi. Rouba,
Woo-hoo!
welcome
Hello.
to the podcast.
Nice to have you with us.
Really excited.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be with you.
Well, this is, I think, a subject that, as I said earlier, it's probably relevant to every single woman on the planet. Obviously men as well, but definitely women. So, Rouba, why don't you give us a little bit of background, who you are, and how on earth did you end up doing what you're doing?
Sure. So, I am, first of all, someone who overate for 40 years and felt so guilty, felt so out of place for not being able to control my eating by eating less and exercising more, because the conventional wisdom said, shut your mouth and things will be sorted, except that I could not shut my mouth. So I lived outside of my body, in my mind, became a very successful woman. And still, this issue of eating kept on going and coming and going and coming and going and coming until I was 40 years old. And I went through a lot of changes in my life that led me to really look into what is it exactly that is at the cause of my overeating. There were a lot of changes happening at work. There were a lot of changes happening in our family dynamics. And I was very unhappy. Even though I was a very successful woman, I felt miserable. Things on the outside looked amazing, but on the inside, I was so not happy, so not fulfilled in life. And then started my spiritual journey that made me realize that I was taking care of everybody, supporting everyone, making everyone happy, attending to everyone. And the person that I was neglecting the most was myself. So my journey with food, this time when I was 40, started from a project in self-love. I was going to show Rouba the way of self-love by loving her, by treating her with kindness and love. Versus before, it was, I need to lose weight, shut your mouth. The only way for you to exist as a woman is by losing weight, because fat women are not desirable. And having all of those messages that I have talked and internalized to myself, and then forcing myself and putting so much control in order not to eat. And then a year and a half later, whenever that succeeded and I had lost a lot of weight, there was as if a dam would break and boom, it was an explosion. Eating uncontrollably and forgetting anything about food control. And of course, regaining the weight.
Oh, wow. It sounds like a very emotional journey as well, Rouba.
It's a very emotional journey for any person who grew up overeating. Because being an Arab woman, growing up in a Lebanese household, even though I was in Africa, I was in Ghana, but still my mom is Lebanese. She would tell me, look how beautiful your cousins are, but you are smarter. Or I had all of those meltdowns whenever there were feasts, or when I was a teenager and I went to Lebanon and my eldest cousins were starting to get married. It's like finding something in a cloth that I could fit in And it was always the most nerve-wracking. My mom would start crying inside of the clothes shop because I was looking very ugly and
Oh,
nothing
wow.
could fit. And then she would start telling me, why do you keep on eating? And I mean, she was doing her best. This is what she knew. Bless
Mm.
her. That's the best that she knew. She thought that losing weight involved eating less and exercising more, in addition to, yeah, labeling myself, you're so lazy. Not realizing that I have a very sensitive nervous system. And whenever I'm under stress, my nervous system freezes. But then I grew up with the guilt of me internalizing myself and labeling
Mhm.
myself. I'm so lazy. So then I aggress my nervous system, I aggress my body sometimes by pushing it to exercise while not eating.
Mm.
And then that was not sustainable because there was nothing about falling in love with my body. There was nothing about attending to my body. There was nothing about being in sync in my body because my body was my enemy.
Mm.
It's
That is so deep.
possibly the most complex relationship is the one we have with food, because it's not like, alcohol or cigarettes or anything like that.
Mm,
Those things we're better off without. But food, you can't survive without food. So it's that balance between eating because you need it and to nourish your body and actually give your body the fuel it needs. And then the overeating, the comfort eating. As you said, if someone's nervous system is sensitive, it's calling for something to release those endorphins. And when we eat,
mm,
what happens, isn't it? We actually, it's called comfort eating for a reason. We feel good when we eat. And that's the first thing we look for when we're born is nourishment. So we have such a
yeah.
complex relationship. How do you help people to separate the relationship between eating for nourishment and for self-care and eating for that kind of almost like abuse?
Yeah. The scariest thing for an overeater is to tell them you need to reduce your eating. And the part is really a part of acknowledgement and realizing that you are hungry for way more than food.
Mm.
You're hungry for love. You're hungry for self care. You're hungry for safety. You're hungry for support. You're hungry for calm. There are so many reasons out there. But then again, because of a certain conditioning, food has been the nourishment and tranquilizer of choice. And all
Mm.
overeaters realize the abusive relationship they are with food, but this dependency with food is very, very problematic. And the idea of stopping this dependency is very scary. So the approach that I take is very much of an approach of teaching them how to manage stress outside of food. And
Mhm.
many times the reaction I get is like, I'm not a stressed out person. I don't have any stress. It's not realizing
Mm.
because, I mean, if I go back to myself when I was like 10 years ago, I didn't think I was a stressed out person because I had everything under control. The thing is, food was there for a reason. It has been the refuge, it has been the escape. And in as a child, developing this relationship for the nervous system of escaping to food is very kind of was part of the survival. And
Mm.
what I'm trying to do is to teach overeaters how to notice early signs of stress because there is no awareness. Because what happens is like, I'm not okay, I overeat. There's no realization that I swallow my stress, that I push myself over my limit. I never say no. I don't have boundaries.
Mm.
I am afraid of being rejected. So I am the nicest person. I am the one that performs the highest. There are a lot of survival mechanisms that are supported when you overeat. So what I do is I teach them to slowly notice the patterns that are sabotaging the relationship with food, and seeing that the pattern has consequences and helping them break those patterns.
Mm. And I think that's the thing. So many people are struggling with food, and I think they don't realize that it's coming from a deeper connection, from somewhere deeper. So I have to ask, with your breathwork coaching, are there techniques that you can share with us that people can do? But firstly, tell us, what is breathwork? Because I think a lot of people are like, what?
So my easiest way of explaining breathwork. So breathwork is based on the foundation of breath, and breath is the thing that we do a zillion times during the day, and yet we are never focused or centered in our breath, because breath is connection. Breath is an ability to connect with this body. So my interpretation of breathwork, it's a tool that I use to help you reconnect with your body, to help you live inside of your body, to be inside and support your body. Because for many overeaters, there's a divorce with the body. My body is a liability. My body is inconvenient. My body is the subject of so much criticism and hatred that I'm going to shelve my body on the side. And then what I'm doing through breath work is I am helping overeaters connect with their bodies. However, there are a lot of people, overeaters, that say, okay, I'm going to go through spirituality as a way of reconciling with myself. So, what happens when you go through spirituality without your body? It becomes another form of escape.
Okay.
You leave your body and you leave your body. So, what I'm trying to do is to combine mindfulness with presence in the body. Because at the end of the day, there's so much pain and so much discomfort in this body. And my aim is to teach overeaters to acknowledge and to notice this unease that is there, and use this unease as an invitation to connect to their unmet need. Because the unease is a messenger there to tell them that there is something that they need that they have not attended to. However, their coping mechanism has been from a very young age: I am uncomfortable, I escape to food. Without slowing this process of the reflex and having the reflex to realize, okay, I'm not well today. I'm feeling low on energy. Let me eat, even though I had my meal like an hour ago. Versus realizing I am not well. I am a little bit sick. I have a flu, even though I'm a little bit functional. I have a flu. Food is not the solution. The solution for me is to take it easy and not to push, and probably delegate stuff, ask for help, renegotiate my deadlines, because I need to attend to myself, versus taking care of others is kind of sanctity. It is what I need to do, and it comes at the expense of the inner experience of the body and how the body feels.
I think coming back again to the relationship with food in our families of origin, you know, if our parents didn't know how to listen to themselves and to pay attention, you know, then when a child is upset, one of the first things that what do we do with children when we use food in so many ways, don't we? One is as a bribery. You know, you can't have dessert unless you finish everything on your plate, and then you can have something sweet. Or if you're good and you're quiet, then you can have a biscuit, or you can have a bar of chocolate or an ice cream or something like that. So there's this, like, food becomes the reward. It becomes, you know, it's something to strive for. Like, you have to eat everything else until you can, you know, again, it's that thing of not listening to your body. It's not actually what you really need, but it's the emotional, as you said, is what's unmet. And I was, you know, it's the flip side of, what are you being starved of? You know, you're being starved of something. So as you said, you want to fill that. And I mean, it just resonates certainly with me a huge amount. I don't know any woman that in my circle of friends who hasn't had some issue with food. And one of the most common ways of tackling that, as you said, is actually to control everything else or to control the food. So do you help people who are also overeaters who are depriving themselves of food as well? Do you find that comes in?
I think deprivation and binging come together. It's a tango dance. So, I tend to be an overeater, and I'm going to deprive myself during daytime. And then I don't know what happens at nighttime. So one of the common questions I get, I'm like, why do we overeat at night? And the first question I ask them back, are you eating enough during the day? And the answer is no. Because of this, and one of the main issues that I tackle is giving overeaters the confidence and the trust of eating more.
Wow.
Because when they're able to control themselves, they're eating less. And when they're tired, because they haven't eaten enough, they're overeating. And it's really about creating this abundance mindset in food. And I mean, Janine, you are a sales expert and a mindset expert, always talking about scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. For an overeater, there has been so much deprivation from food. The reflex is, if food is available right now, I'd rather grab as much as I can because there's going to be famine, or I'm going to be deprived later on. And then it creates this addictive relationship with food, because right now I trust that the food is here because later on it's not here. And it's internalized because I'm controlling myself, because I believe that I'm fat and I'm an overeater, or I overate yesterday during dinner. I'm going to deprive myself from eating all day long. But then again, you end up repeating the cycle of overeating again at night.
Up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me, I have a story that to me, the only explanation was something very primitive was switched on to do with famine. So this is a few years ago in Ireland, and we had horrific storms. And I was trapped actually in our house for 3 days with my two children. My husband got stuck in Holland, and the snow was so fast and so heavy that we couldn't get out of the house. And we knew the storm was coming, so we had stocked up as much as possible. But I was on edge for 3 days because we didn't know if the electricity was going to go out. There was a group in the neighborhood that were WhatsApping, and anyone who could get to a shop was saying, right, I've managed to get to a shop. What do people need? And I was in this constant panic of, am I going to be able to feed my children? Because if the electricity goes, that's it. I'd have no way of preparing food. So I was preparing huge amounts of food, just eat as much as you can, because I don't know when the next meal will be available. And in that 3 days, something happened, and I started to put on weight very dramatically afterwards.
I'm sure Rouba can give guidance there.
It's the nervous system again. It's the nervous system. And I'm going to go back because, Sara, you mentioned something about childhood and the parents' behavior. I'm going to take even way back before, when we were babies, when we don't remember, we did not have an awareness. So if a mother or a caregiver has a baby, a very, very young baby, and they're attentive to the body cues of the baby, and they're attentionate to the baby. So the baby is in the crib, the baby cries, the caregiver comes, takes the baby, attends to the baby. So the baby goes from crying to calm and feeling well. So that's the first scenario. The second scenario, the mother is busy. There are probably many children, or the mother is not connected to her needs, or she believes that she wants the baby to abide by a certain schedule, a certain feeding schedule, a certain sleeping schedule. So the baby is uncomfortable, cries. Nobody picks up the baby. Then the baby stops crying, and the mother goes around telling everybody, I have the most amazing low maintenance child.
So good. The baby's really good.
Yeah, the baby is so good. Meanwhile, oh wow. Yeah, you see.
Yeah. So the baby who was held and taken care of develops a nervous system that is calm, that does not fear turbulence in the nervous system, because there's a trust that when my nervous system is in turbulence, it's going to go back to calm.
Mhm.
And the baby over time develops all the tools to take the nervous system from dysregulation to regulation, from turbulence to calm. A baby who was not attended to does not trust the turbulence in their nervous system. So whenever they experience turbulence in their nervous system, it's a threat to their survival. They have to swallow it and pretend everything is fine.
Mm.
And this is where addiction develops, because you need a coping mechanism. You need a substitute. And in the case of the overeater, the substitute is food. So food is the drug. So whenever there's turbulence in the nervous system, in case of Sara and the situation in Ireland, the reflex of the brain is like food, 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 food. And it's realizing that the brain is inviting you to go to a refuge. So whenever I am not okay, for some of us, we collapse and we hide. And we find comfort in food.
Mhm.
So what I do with overeaters is helping them notice signs of stress in their body and learning how to calm, how daily practices to bring calm to their nervous system. First of all, it's also how to release stress. I just want you to notice sometimes if you are with people and something that you don't like is happening, you will notice you're swallowing a lot. And then the opposite of swallowing is, but as teenagers, how many times did we get grounded for doing this?
Oh, yeah.
I call
That takes
it
me back. That takes me back. Did you
Yeah.
just sis with me?
Yeah.
And the body's way of releasing stress is through sighing.
Mm.
So many times I am teaching overeaters how to sigh because their exhale is totally blocked. There is so much swallowing in of stress.
Mm.
And then the return, the out, the exhale is blocked. So what happens? The stress is stuck in the body and there's a volcano and poof, it blows and the overeating starts. So one aspect of stress management is the exhale. And the other aspect of stress management, if the nervous system is on fire, totally dysregulated, there's no safety sign, there's danger, and the nervous system needs refuge.
Mm.
Basically, there are a lot of techniques that involve other senses because we have 5 senses. The overeater is just using the mouth, the eating.
Mm.
And we have the eyes, we have the nose, the smell, we have sound, we have touch. So we have so many other senses through which we can bring our nervous system to a place of calm. So one of the things that I do is teaching them to use those techniques and to use those techniques proactively, because when you use them proactively, it's teaching your nervous system how to go from stressed out to notice what comforts me, to notice what activates me, and to begin to see what cues the body is giving. Because for an overeater, the mind is everything, whereas the body is very, very expressive. And what I'm doing through bringing them to a connection and awareness of their body is a presence in the body and an ability to observe what signs the body is doing.
I love that. Yeah. Now tell us a little bit about your book, Beyond the Emptiness. You're sharing so many things in there, and there it is. I love the cover. It's very intriguing, and there's something that you say there that it's a deep unease. Can you tell us a little bit about exactly what you mean with that, and are there ways that we as humans can identify the root causes of these eating habits?
The unease can come from many things. Personally, in my journey, it was a deep sense of emptiness, even though I had a fulfilling life that looked good on paper. It was an empty life. I felt like a fraud. I felt like, despite all of the external success that everybody was seeing, there was a volcano inside of me. There was this person that I hated. I hated my body. I lived in my mind. So what happens is this unease can come at different stages because, as we said, overeating is a consequence, and it's a consequence of developmental trauma. And traumas come in two forms. So you have the big trauma, the trauma with a big T that we all associate with trauma, like war, abuse, like a big event that was traumatic. But we also have developmental trauma, which are the childhood circumstances, the circumstances of childhood, of any child, the dynamics of the family, the dynamics of the school, the whole situation that pushes a child to survival. For certain children, it starts very early. I'll take an example. I mean, Sara comes from Iraq. I come from Lebanon. The war is omnipresent. So, a mother is pregnant during war, but she has to survive. So, what happens? The mother is doing her best to survive. However, her nervous system is very activated. So, the baby in the womb feels this womb is not a welcoming place. So the unease could start from the womb, or the mother is going through challenges in her life. She has difficult children to attend to. It's an unwanted pregnancy. There's deaths in the family, or economic hardships, or anything that is happening. The mother might think she's got it under control by swallowing her stress and not releasing it. And then the child, the embryo or the baby in the womb feels that there's an unease, the environment outside is an unease. Or the birth is a difficult birth. So the baby arrives to the world feeling it wasn't an easy way to come to this life. Or the circumstances, a baby is born into a war or an emergency or a difficult family situation or anything, the baby will realize that they're not the center of attention. And in this case, the child starts life feeling a very big, immense sense of unease, and they consciously decide to swallow it and leave the body and live in the mind and live in the spirits. So you will find all the philosophers, the very smart people, the clergy, musicians, people in the artistic field have all had some kind of trauma that pushes them to live outside of the body. When you happen to be an overeater and you're outside of your body, that's a very bad place to be, because you cannot take care of something that you live outside of.
Well, you're not paying attention. You can't hear the signals. The signals are just being lost. I think it's really interesting just to go back to something you said earlier, and you repeated it just there, which is a lot of spiritual practices are actually taking people even further from their bodies. They're not even on this planet. Like, they're literally somewhere else. And I've felt for a long time that some of those spiritual practices are not for everyday living, almost. Like, they're not really connected to the here and now. And it feels fantastic because, as you said, you're not in your body, you're not feeling all of that. So it feels as if it's the right thing to do. It feels like you're helping yourself, but actually it could be completely detrimental because you're not you're not actually coming back into your body. You're not connecting and really feeling things. You're really going even another level above in terms of emotional connection, physical connection.
Yeah. And that's to go back. I just realized, Janine, I didn't answer your question on breath work. And that's what I love about breath work, because it's a body oriented therapy. It brings you back to the body. And while the other practices are also important, but you need to come back to the body. You use them on a temporary basis. They become problematic when they're your permanent escape. However, if you are stressed out and you go to a spiritual place and connect to your God, or you go on a spiritual journey, or you do any spiritual practice, and in 1 hour it brings you back to your body. It could be a way for you to energize, it could be a way for you to release stress, but the important part is returning to the body, grounding in the body. And the best way to ground with the body is through connecting to the breath. It's just pausing and being aware of something that our body is all the time doing. It's just pausing and noticing. I'm inhaling, I'm exhaling for a few rounds, and just be present. And that's the best way to bring this connection in. But then again, you have a lot of people that tell me, I just can't do a yoga class. This meditation part drives me nuts. I just can't stand still. I'm happy to do the movement, but once it comes into stillness, I cannot do stillness. And it goes back because this unease in the body is so high. They're not able to be still because the body does not feel like a safe place to be. So hence the coping mechanism of, for some, we had mentioned, you escape the unease through the spirits, through leaving your body, through artistic, intellectual endeavors. For others that are super social beings, that love socializing and connecting to people, just like you, Janine, loved by everybody, connecting, social. So the typical scenario for extroverted, super social people that are loved and adored by everybody, from a very young age, there's an internal sadness in the chest. And because there was no space there to hold the sadness and to process the sadness, the coping mechanism has been other people. So it's like this electrical outlet. I put my electrical outlet on other people. It's an external power station. And the invitation is to create this internal power station because the power and the energy is inside. So for others, it's more around processing your grief, being able to name your emotion, understanding that if you feel sad and down, the world is not going to collapse. And helping them cry, holding space for them to realize it's okay for me to let go of this grief, because this grief is going to allow me to really feel my body and to have this empathy and to hold space for others that are going through grief as well.
Wow. That's powerful stuff.
It's deep. It's so, I'm sure there's so much.
I feel like I'm having a therapy session, but it's so because it's touching on so many points that I think are relevant to so many of us. So can you just explain sort of typically when someone comes to you, how does the process work? Where do you start? What sort of do you normally see? Why do people come to you? Like, what is it to come to lose weight, or is it something else?
Yeah, so obviously everybody wants, not everybody, the overeaters all want to lose weight. Some come to me having tried everything and they're open to a new way of doing things. And others they come to me and say, okay, I'm starting a new job in a month's time. Will you help me lose 15 kilos? Or my son's graduation is in 6 months. I need to lose 30 kilos. And then I need to explain to them that the work that I do is very different from the work out there, because what
Mm.
I'm doing is helping you develop a relationship with your body, because your overeating is not the actual problem. Your overeating is a consequence of the
Mm.
problem. So I help them realize that losing weight is going to involve a mix of things: an ability to connect within and be present in their body and fall in love with themselves and be able to notice all the signs that are happening in their bodies and manage them, in addition to learning how to nourish themselves with food. And the third component is more around flourishing in life, which is very much around finding pleasures in life in things beyond food, so that food loses this power grip on being the most kind of the monopoly of pleasure in their life,
Mm.
starting to have other kinds of pleasures. But so what I do when they start working with me is very focused on a 5-week journey where I teach them how to connect to their body, how to start naming their emotions, how to start noticing what's happening in their body on a daily basis. Also, starting to notice their nervous system. Are they stressed out or not stressed out? Even though their mind might believe that they're not stressed out, but they're actually, the signs that their body is giving them are all signs of distress. And
Mm.
then really teaching them techniques in breath work that involves exhaling, releasing the stress from the body, techniques and breath work and self-care that really involve calming the nervous system through touch, through movement, through sound, through smell. And when I support them over a 5-week process. So what I do, I help them through guided journaling, and then through guided journaling, they start seeing incremental changes on a daily basis, because it's all about the little daily habits. And also, it's a process for them to realize that having willpower over food is an illusion. it,
Mm.
it, it leads to consequence, because the dream of the overeater is to be able to control the relationship with food. And my journey with them is a journey of realizing that control, this is where control has led you. And the invitation is to teach them how to safely let go of control and channel their energy into connection and self care and attending to their basic needs that they never knew they existed. And the
Mm.
first one, for especially for the overachievers, is giving themselves permission to rest, because there's so much resistance on this permission and this reflex that it's safe for me to relax. It's safe for me to slow
Mm.
down.
So
Yeah.
powerful.
It is.
I think that
It makes me think of that quote that you said, Ruba, that you don't need to be accepted by others. You need to accept yourself. And that is such a powerful, powerful quote. Can you share with us, how do you see self-acceptance?
I see self acceptance as a daily practice.
Mm.
I'm looking around at you, Janine, and on Sara and myself. We're all middle aged women
Mm.
experiencing on a daily basis aging.
Mm.
Um, if I look at my old self, bless my mom had so many ambitions for herself. She got married at 16 and did not have a lot of choices. So she poured all of her ambitions into her kids, wanting her kids to be superstars.
mm,
But in this culture, especially of mothers or society pushing kids to perform, do, attend, there's there's no balance with
Mm.
being. Being is more around presence, and acceptance is presence in my body and my ability to notice that even though things are not where I would like them to be, I'm going to accept myself unconditionally. Because
Mm.
again, we go back to childhood. If you do this, I will love you. If you don't do that, you'll
Mm.
be rejected. So we internalize it with ourselves and we start having this conditional acceptance with myself. If I don't abide by my vision, my external vision of success, then I'm a failure. Versus the invitation is about being, my experience of myself, my experience of being in this body, in this human body who goes through 4 cycles, each 4 weeks. So every week is literally in a cycle of going through life and having empathy, unconditional empathy and loving kindness to this human body and attending to it. And it's a daily journey. I mean, even as I was typing it and sending it to you, I had tears in my eyes because
Mm.
I'm like, this code is so powerful.
Mm.
It's this daily exercise of Ruba. I've been sick for 8 days, and I'm going to have the patience and the open heartedness of embracing those struggling parts of me and
Mm.
holding space for them where they are, not where I would like them to be. Because this is the problem. We are taught like, my mind is here and my body is here. Um, I need to get to my body. I need to hold my body. I need
Mm.
to accept my body. Because if I don't accept my body, I can not lift my body up. So it's very much with overeaters, it's very much bringing them down to their body and then teaching them to hold their body so that they can lift their body a little bit up.
Mm.
What sort of results, and I don't mean about weight loss, but what do you generally see your clients, the results that they get then for themselves? What's the outcome of working with you?
The outcome is more self-awareness, noticing that food is not the solution, having the reflex to say, I'm not hungry, and that it's an invitation for self-care, having this connection, this loving kindness towards themselves, and this openness to this journey of finding fulfillment in all the areas of their lives that they are hungry for.
Wow.
So
Sounds
for me,
amazing.
this is the kind of success that I focus on, even though everybody comes wanting to lose weight. And the way for me to talk to them, I have to speak their language and talk about weight loss.
Mm.
But it's much deeper. It's this journey because if I love something, I will take care of it. But again, as you said, Sarah, and when we're talking about success, um, and we're talking also about self acceptance, Janine,
Mm.
it's realizing our mind likes fixed formulas. Like, this is the middle point that I want to get. So, this is
Mm.
going to be my fixed formula
Mm.
of any success, or my fixed formula. Okay, I will figure it out. And this is the recipe that I'll keep doing for me not to overeat or for me to achieve anything. And actually the dynamics of humanity are totally different. There's nothing fixed in life. There's nothing permanent in life.
Mm.
Everything is moving, and it's really around changing their expectations of themselves and realizing that life is peaks and valleys, and what I'm doing them is helping them balance themselves. It's learning when I am out of balance, how do I get in balance? But then when I get into balance, I'm going to get out of balance. So how do I get into balance again? So it's really around this balancing act. But when I'm connected to myself and I have myself in my best self interest, I know that this is where my focus is supposed to be.
Mm. Oh, wow. Listen, grab that book, Beyond the Emptiness. I'm sure you're going to find it amazing and deep dive into that journey. And I think the only thing I can say here by kind of wrapping up is find your own fullness outside of food, right? It is actually within. Rouba, you
Yeah.
were fantastic.
I think we could have
My
spoken to
pleasure.
Rouba for a week because
Indeed.
you have so many pearls of wisdom, and they just touch on so many aspects, I think, of most people's lives. And I think,
Mm.
yeah, if you want to get hold of Rouba, you want to contact her. Her contact details are below the video. And even just listening to you, I don't know about how you feel, Janine, but you feel so calm in your presence. And I have actually met
What
you in
light.
person, which was great. Just this lovely calmness. You really do. You're obviously living what you preach. You practice what you
Yeah.
preach, and you are a fantastic example of how someone can get back to themselves, which is just incredible.
That's the only person we've got. And this person inside of us, our body, deserves our love. So,
Mm.
yeah.
So
And that's what
true.
makes me so passionate, is because I want to teach others what has worked for me and made a huge difference in my life. I
Mm.
want to make it available to others so that it can also be of help to them.
Well, I'm sure we'll see more of you, Rouba. And thank you so much for being on our podcast today. You've been an amazing guest. And
Yep.
to our viewers, thank you very much for your support. And if anyone wants to help us to continue to grow, Janine and I are very grateful for all donations. And there's a link below the video. You can buy us a coffee, and that will help us to take this podcast to another level. So I don't think there's much more that we can say today other than thanks again for joining us.
And
And
stay
thank you,
wise and strong and keep breathing.
thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.